Welcome to another blockbuster episode of the iRonik show. Recently, I was moderating a panel on technology advances in India. Uh, we heard about cloud about a decade ago, then came in AI, ML, IoT. These days, we are surrounded by words like blockchain, Web3, Metaverse, overall the gaming industry in India. To simplify all these, technology advances and the concept about Web3 and Metaverse, we today have an expert, Kris Sunderarajan, who is the founder of Loka. Loka is India's first gamified metaverse app. They have been building metaverse for some of the largest companies in India, and they are doing a lot more groundbreaking stuff. We have spoken about the future of gaming industry in India, the use cases of metaverse, what is NFT and what are their actual use cases, what is the future of cryptocurrencies in India. Trust me, you will have to come back to this podcast once more because the amount of information that has been shared in this podcast. Chris and Loka featured in the season 1 of Shark Tank, where they back deals from three sharks. Today, Chris is here with us to speak about Metaverse and Web3. Enjoy this Metaverse special. And before I let you slip into this, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy. Krishnan, shall I Krish you for this podcast? Is that okay with you?
With pleasure, yeah. Please do.
Krish, how are you? And welcome to the iRonik show.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for inviting me, having me here.
The pleasure is all mine, Chris. Actually, after doing so many podcasts on defense, on spirituality, horror stuff, so this is our first tech focused on tech podcast, and that too on metaverse because that's what everyone is talking about these days.
Oh, there's now. It feels like there's a burden on my shoulders to be as good as I can. So yeah, great,
Please release all the burdens if required. Get a massage. Absolutely, this will be absolutely chilled podcast.
wonderful, wonderful. Let's start. Yeah.
Okay. First thing, Chris, how did you get into metaverse? I mean, obviously you're building a company called Loka. So why metaverse and how did you get into metaverse?
So it's actually very interesting. Uh, I in fact read about metaverse back in college. I was in my third year, I think. Yeah, in 2011.
Okay.
And back then, I was reading this book called Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. And nowadays, a lot of people refer it because that's where the term metaverse comes from. It's a 91 book written by Neil Stephenson, and I was reading it, and I mean, it's there's nothing related to reality there. It's a fictional book, but what it sort of compelled me to think is, what if we have a world where virtually we can do whatever we want, be whatever we want, and be wherever we want without the hassle of reality. And what it also compelled me to think is how overhyped reality is. And to give you reference, reality is whatever we perceive out of five senses, right? Your eyes, ears,
Right.
nose, tongue, and touch. uh, what if we could change all the inputs that you get out of these five senses? Does reality still remain real? That's the question that I kept asking after reading that book. And I've always been a gamer all my life, a little too much if you ask my parents. My wife still try to play at least like a 30-minute game every day. We actually have a rule in office that we have to play a 30-minute multiplayer game every day as a team sport. So back when I was growing, there was this very very popular game called GTA, and there was a
Hmm.
mod of the GTA called GTA Punjab.
Okay.
And what happened in that game is uh, so there was this taxi guy. If you stole the taxi and the taxi driver was a Sardarji, he would run behind you and chase you and abuse you in Hindi. And what
Oh.
that did to me as a child is, it was like love at first sight. वो पहली नजर में प्यार जो होता है ना, कि यार मैं एक गेम खेल रहा हूँ जिसमें पीछे एक इंडियन कैरेक्टर भाग रहा है और वो हिंदी में गाली दे रहा है, पंजाबी में गाली दे रहा है, and it felt magical. And all of these things combined together, coupled with playing a lot of games, uh, and I was doing a startup which got acqui-hired in 2019 by Big Basket. So I now had time, now I had vision, now I had some bit of money. I said, now I want to chase my dream. And my dream was to create a virtual world where everybody could stay in one world, do whatever they can in real world and do whatever they can't in real world. That
Okay.
was the whole inspiration of creating this.
So, fun fact: when you mentioned this book, Snow Crush, there are companies which are into metaverse and blockchain. They
Mhm.
give out this book as a handbook to the new joinees.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There are companies
He's
doing that.
he's actually a consultant with. He used to be a consultant with Amazon. Now is a consultant with Google, who
Okay.
are building their own metaverse, and he's advising how to do it. Yeah. So he
So,
is an expert at it.
before we deep dive into metaverse, I just wanted to know. I mean, I just wanted you to explain the concept of Web 1, Web 2. We are now at Web 3, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is the buzz term right now. Web 3 is coming. Web 3. It's like Game of Thrones. Mein hota tha na, winter is coming. Winter is coming. It's like Web 3 is coming. And just for the listeners, if I can just put it in a very simple language, Web 1, which was a dot com bubble. Everything was dot com this, dot com that, and it was more of a written kind of journal.
Yeah.
जब आप जाते थे, you logged into particular dot com website, you just read through it. Then came the Web 2, which is
Mm,
typically which we are using right now, wherein a lot of UI UX is being used. Your Facebooks, Googles, and everything around it, whatever you are using right now.
yeah.
Then Web 3. What exactly will Web 3 bring now?
Okay. Sure. Before we deep dive into Web3, it's very important to understand that what is metaverse and what is Web3, and
Yeah.
are these the same thing, right? Uh, so let me just put it this way: metaverse is the overarching umbrella term which has certain or metaverse can be divided into three important components. One component are virtual worlds, worlds like Fortnite, worlds like Roblox, worlds like GTA, right? The second component is devices through which we can enter these virtual worlds. This can be anything from a PC to a mobile to a console to a VR device, anything, right? And the third are services like let's say decentralized asset ownership service like NFT, decentralized financial service like crypto,
Hmm.
voice service like Agora, matchmaking service like Photon, so on and so forth. Now it is important why did I break it into three components is because I wanted to explain one important fact, which is that crypto is not metaverse, right?
Right.
Crypto is a part of the metaverse, and metaverse can exist without crypto or without NFT or without Web3. Web3 is an important part of the metaverse, but it's not an essential part of the metaverse, right?
Okay.
Now, coming back to what is Web2, what is Web3, the simple way to sort of understand this is let me give you an example by apps, right? Let's say, take the example of one of the most common apps that we use, which is WhatsApp, right? What happens in WhatsApp is when I send you a message, I don't send you a message. I send a message that goes to the server, updates the current status of my current message to that new message that I've sent. You access that server and see my new message, right? So essentially we are not interacting with each other, we are interacting with a common centralized server which gets updated every time either you access it or I access it,
Hmm.
right? And now that's the more web 2 approach, which is centralized in nature, servers taking care of messages being sent, data being sent, videos being sent, so on and so forth.
Okay.
uh, then comes the Web3 element. Web3 element is, uh, let's say, instead of me sending data to a server and you accessing that server, let me send the data to you. And while I am sending that data to you, I have various people that are authenticating this transaction of data packets going from me to you. Now what that does is that ensures higher level of privacy between you and me. What that takes away is con- is control that a central body can have if things go wrong. Let's say if I send you money through, let's say, UPI, and by
Hmm.
mistake I wasn't intending to send you money but I accidentally
Hmm.
sent it, I can still approach NPCI or UPI
Hmm.
and say that, oh, I did it by mistake, can you reverse it? And they have the power to reverse it. But if I send you, let's say, some Ethereum, right, for example, Ether, so uh, I have no power to reverse it. Once sent is done. Now it's a double-edged sword. It ensures privacy, it ensures a higher degree of autonomy between you and me, but it takes away overarching governance that a government or a organization can give you in web 2. That's the basic difference between the two.
So if I have to just put it into maybe another simpler terms, Web 1, when we had Web 1, there was all the power was with the government, right?
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
came Web 2, companies like Google, Facebook. Now, in today's world, it feels like that the power is in our hand, but it is actually being dictated by these companies, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They will,
So
you can only do what they will allow you to do. आप यही post कर सकते हो, आप यही comment कर सकते हो, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. Now with Web
so
3, we are
exactly. I think you got the drift very well. That with Web3, the control rests with you and me and all the users in the network. But again, it's a double-edged sword. Like
right.
I will not say one is better than the other yet. I mean, maybe in 5 years, 10 years, I will have a
Hmm.
clear picture of saying A is better or B is better. But right now, both is a equal bargain that we're doing.
Okay. Uh, थोड़ा सा Krishna, I would like to know more about the metaverse. Right
Yeah.
now, in metaverse, how do we relate that to blockchain? Now,
Hmm.
under blockchain, there you have NFT, you have cryptocurrencies. Then another part would be metaverse. So,
Yeah.
what the role? What is the role of blockchain in whole of metaverse? Then I have a few follow up questions after that.
Sure. Sure. Uh, it, so it's let's start with the basics because that's where
Hmm.
we sort of start understanding stuff, right? So the basic stuff is a metaverse is a playground, right? It's an empty canvas, an empty 3D canvas. Think of metaverse like a 3D internet,
Okay.
right? Where now when you go to Netflix, you go to a 2D page which says Netflix and there are movie catalogs niche. But think of it in a 3D environment where instead of going to the 2D page, you're going to a Netflix theater or a multiplex where there are different audios and each audio is playing one extraction to and other things that Netflix has at its disposal, right? Uh, Now the- it is important to now say that when you're in a 3D environment, do you want to live the way you've lived all your life, like in a Web 2 environment where you, let's say, to open a account, you go to a centralized unit like a bank. To send money, you go to a centralized app like a UPI or a technology like a UPI or an NEFT or an IMPS or
Hmm.
so on and so forth? Or do you want to take control of what you do or what you own?
Okay.
Now what you let's come to what you own first before what you sort of have as money, right? What you own is, and what is nft is basically an asset, a virtual asset, and virtual asset could be anything from a photograph to a video to a 3D model, anything that's virtual in nature. And I assign a address, a unique code to it, saying that this unique code defines that I am the owner of this asset, right? And what do I have as a power after owning the asset is the power to also transfer the ownership. Now, I can, if I own, let's say, a bottle, and that bottle has a code of ABC, and ABC defines that Krishnan is the owner of that bottle, I can now transfer the ownership to Ronik and say now Ronik is the owner of that
Hmm.
bottle and get money in return. Now, coming to the second part, which is money. Now money could be, metaverse doesn't need crypto. Firstly, you can, there is Fortnite, there is Roblox, there is Minecraft that has no crypto element, and
Okay.
yet are have user base bigger than any metaverse can ever claim of, any other traditional metaverse companies can ever claim of, right? But since we are on the topic of crypto, now when I sell that or transfer the ownership of that NFT to you, i can I will want some money in return. That money could be either given to me in fiat by, you can just transfer, let's say, $100 to me on UPI, and say that why don't you give that virtual asset, I can do that. Or you can send it on a closed secure network, like a, let's say you transfer some maybe crypto, some bitcoin, some ethereum to me, and that money that I will get is also something that is decentralized in nature, which means that no person in the entire network will know that you transferred that money to me, except for the purpose of authentication, saying that yes, this money has been transferred from A to B. And for that authentication, they will get some bit of the transaction fee or gas for it.
Okay. Okay. My follow-up question regarding these NFTs. Now, as of now, the NFTs are more like, how do I put it? These are digital arts in जो board ape हैं. There are so many, getting created every day and sold for like millions and millions in terms of Ethereum or Bitcoin, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now, what would be the actual use of these NFTs in metaverse? So as of now, it's just a status symbol. What I can understand, there is no as of practical use of NFTs in the real world.
See, I mean, I can give you my personal view on it.
Yeah,
I
please.
personally have uh, never have bought a single
Hmm.
NFT, never will buy a single
Hmm.
NFT in my life. I personally feel NFT seems more like a gimmick than anything else. I
Okay.
feel metaverse, like every technology in the world, every technology needs to create value, solve a problem.
Hmm.
And the way metaverse does it in real life, and the best example for that, and something that we are also doing with Loka, is digital twins. And what digital twins do is, let's say you create a 3D version of a factory setup or a plant setup, where somebody sitting right at home or right somewhere else can see what is this component doing, what is the temperature of this component, what is the efficiency, how much electricity is it taking, how much supply is it giving to another component, how is my entire plant functioning, what are different people doing in all these plants. Now currently this is done in 2D setups using IoT devices that are
Right.
powered by Siemens and Cisco and stuff. But when this becomes a 3D setup, instead of seeing machine A is doing this, machine B is doing this, machine C is doing this, and A person is operating this in this way and that way, we have a 3D visual setup here. We are creating a 3D version of a factory where every person can see what is happening in each and every factory component, what each person is doing, and how he's affecting the overall growth and output of that factory. Now you take that into a country kind of setup. This is what Beijing's been doing. This is what Seoul's been doing in Korea, where they're creating digital twins of their entire city. 3D models of not only buildings, but of, let's say, water pipelines, gas pipelines, electricity lines. Where are the fire department? Where is the police stations? It helps them plan for each and everything before actually sort of doing it. It helps you simulate a city before actually putting a railway station or a police station somewhere. You can see what will be the effect of putting a let's say a factory in a certain area. How much will it pollute the air there, how much will it pollute the water, what will happen to the residents. If you put a police station here, how will that affect the crime rate, and what will be the overall effect on the city. That is what digital twins do, and that's probably the most problem solving tool that metaverse currently comes with.
So, I have a very, generic question. I think anyone who has got into metaverse, I think you also got this question asked when you went to Shark Tank, right?
Yeah.
People who don't understand metaverse. This is a question typically for the to cater to the larger audience. As you mentioned earlier, that you're creating a simulation wherein I'm like I'm in Central Park in CP, or I'm in
Yeah.
Marine Drive, or I'm somewhere else. So
Yeah.
how does that help me? I mean, rather than why should I not go to CP and meet a person? Why should I go to the metaverse and then meet that same person? What feeling would that give me? And why
Okay.
should I consider metaverse in that case?
Okay, great. I think that's probably the most asked question,
Yep.
but also the most important one, because it's important to understand the difference. And earlier we were talking about what is the difference between, or what is reality in a larger sense. The reality is whatever you sense out of your five senses, right? And five senses are being ears, nose, smell, taste, and touch, right? Uh, and whatever you get out inputs from these five senses is what you perceive as reality, right? And that seems cool because, again, reality is the most amazing thing that has happened to us. But what if tomorrow I have devices, I have ability to change the input that you get out of the five senses. And not just that, now when I can change the five senses, you can sit right here in Delhi and meet your friend who is living, let's say, in LA, but together go to some great place, which is, let's say, in Paris, one of the patisseries in Paris, and have a lunch there, and it feels as real as reality. That is when the
Okay.
magic starts happening. That is when problems like traffic, problems like distance, problem like time start diminishing. And that is when metaverse now becomes goes from a cool thing to a useful thing to a necessary thing. That is the transition we're all taking here. Right now the problem is we are probably if I were to relate this to a child, we are probably not even 8 months old. We're still
Right.
getting there. But magic will start happening when the five senses are engaged in a cohesive manner. When that happens, you will start forget, you will rather not want to live in reality. You would want to today, let's say, have chai with your friend not in Delhi or Mumbai. You would rather want to have it in on the top of pyramid of Giza, or
Hmm.
have a lunch in at the summit of Mount Everest. Things that you will rather never want to do in life, but you can still do it, and you can still feel the same way how you would if you were to actually have tea in Mount Everest, which you obviously can't.
Okay. So, see, the 80% believer in me is completely gung-ho about this metaverse and everything, but there is a 20% of skeptic in me also, which wants to ask you that with Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, people have already, I mean, there was physical connection before this, right? There used to be
Yeah.
a lot of going out for these youngsters and everything. Now, do you believe or do you think that with metaverse and these technologies coming in, will it not stop people? Will it not, just motivate people to stay more inside and rather than going outside?
See, as I said, I'm a firm believer that one of the biggest enemies of metaverse is reality. And as much as idiotic it sounds, that is the truth, and you'll probably realize it in probably a decade or so. Uh, it will definitely compel you to stay indoor, but it might not be as worse as you think,
Okay.
right? Which means that you will be able to exercise with, let's say, Eliud Kepuche, who's the marathon world record holder, sitting right at home, which you would never be able to do otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
You would be able to learn how to play a cello with one of the best cello players in the world, sitting right at home. You will be able to meet friends who would you would never otherwise meet in the world because they're from different countries. Now the world metaverse will not only bring the world together, it will just bring make the world as one. The things that nature has sort of prohibited us from doing, which is like teleporting from one place to another, or meet or having five avatars of you in five different places, all of that will be possible using the power of, I firmly believe, using the power of AI and using the power of metaverse.
I
So I
think there is a
think staying at home might not be it might be as worse as you think. You can't compare it to social media because social media is for recreation and enjoyment. Metaverse will be not only recreation and enjoyment, but everything else that you do on internet.
I think for the skeptics, once it actually comes into and comes with full force, I think a lot of questions would be answered then,
Yeah.
because which are being theoretically answered right now by experts like you. But I think with examples, they will, when they can feel it, they can have the actual usage of it. The more of this answer would be cleared. Okay. Now coming to Loka, what
Yeah.
exactly are you doing with Loka? Uh, which all aspects of metaverse or blockchain is Loka trying to cater to?
Okay. So at Loka, we do two types of businesses, right? One is something which is of a service nature, where there are brands who come to us and say that we want to create a kick-ass metaverse experience for our customers. Can you help us do
Okay.
that? So these could be anything from creating a virtual K-pop concert with boat to recreating 1950s Amul story, how Amul started in Anand. to recreating the factory setup of Tata Steel, to recreating one of the stores of Lenskart, to hosting HDFC team meetings there and stuff like that. So one is service based, where a lot of companies would come to us and say create our own metaverse. The second is where we do indigenous stuff, where we do cool things. Now I'll tell you something. I'll save the best for the last. Now some of the things that we are doing currently is we've closed the whole division of creating an open world environment where you can roam around, meet people, socialize, all of that. That's done and dusted from our end. We want,
Okay.
one of the problem that metaverse has been suffering at large and why the hype has gone down is very very simple, is which is that people don't want to live in a virtual world without purpose. They want to go with a purpose. They go to Netflix with a purpose, they go to WhatsApp with a purpose, they go to Instagram with a purpose. Every activity has a purpose, and when you take purpose away and say go whatever you want to do, that is when problem starts, and that is why a lot of metaverses are going down. So, what we said, instead of creating a universe without purpose, we are going to create a universe with thousands of purposes, right? And one of the two purposes that we are currently catering to, we are firstly building a FPS game, a first person shooter game, pretty much like a Counter Strike or a PUBG, and primarily on an Indian setup, where
Okay.
there could be a Counter Strike game played at Indian looking railway stations, being a Marine Commando or an NSG or a paratrooper, and you can shoot out enemies and save the country, something like that. A multiplayer FPS game. The second thing that we are currently working on, and this is also pretty unique, which is that we are creating health wellness services, where this is like uh, we are creating environments where people can come in, meditate with other people, and understand the deeper roots of mental health. And this is a, think of it like a meditation app with experts all across the world, with other people who are maybe facing the same things as you, but on a virtual setup. That's the second thing that we're currently working on. And the third thing that again is something that's a personal dream project for me, which is we call it the project Samsara, where as much as it would sound from Black Mirror, we're trying to make people immortal.
Okay.
And how are we trying to do that? We're trying to take people's consciousness meaning we're trying to recreate their predictive behavior, wherein we using some of the psychometric test and AI predictive analysis, we are trying to generate responses for all the questions based on the answers that they've given for previous problems. Like for example, if you filled, let's say, 1,000 scenarios, I will react this way to this scenario, this way to this scenario, this way to this
Hmm.
scenario. There is a pattern that gets created for you,
Right.
and based on that pattern, if a new question comes in, how will you respond is how we are creating, is what we are creating. So
So
we're trying to
yeah.
create your thought process or your consciousness, now coupling that with your movement abilities. Everybody moves very differently. Using motion capture, we're trying to recreate the way you move, the way you move your hands when you talk, or the way you shake hands, or the way you walk, the way you dance, all of that, and trying to put it in a virtual environment, that's even when you leave the earth, your virtual avatar will walk like you, talk like you, behave like you, with people who you've left behind. Like for example, without getting into details, we're actually working with one of the uh, patients who will probably not survive the next 2 years. We're trying to recreate their mental state, their the way they think, the way they respond to a certain question, and using motion capture, we're trying to recreate how they move and how they sit, how they walk and stuff, and trying to bring them into the virtual world so that when they do leave us all, they will still be available for their families and for their loved ones, who can talk to them, converse with them whenever they want to, as much as they want to.
Okay. So I think there is this series on Amazon, if I'm not wrong, which
It's called the upload.
spoke, upload, right, right, which spoke
Yeah.
about it. And I thought that this scenario would be too futuristic, but now you're saying that you're already working on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Wait, I remember when I was a little child, I kept telling my mom that आप मुझे छोड़ के कहीं नहीं जाओगी.
Mm-hmm.
I will keep you with me forever. And every there hasn't been a single year where I've not thought of what if we could take modern technology and make people immortal. And currently, that technology is almost available to us. We're almost there to recreate somebody's consciousness. We're not completely there. It will be off. It can only give you 98% accuracy, but 98 is still good enough. So yeah.
Okay. So will it also be able to, evolve as a human being evolves?
Yes, yes, yes. It is an evolving technology. In the sense, it's an evolving model where we can decide if tomorrow, let's say, while your virtual consciousness evolves, talks to new people,
Mm-hmm.
develops new habits, do you want to retain those habits or not? Because the
Okay.
real person has left us. It's
Right.
only the AI which is learning and behaving, right? So if the AI, if you want to inculcate those behaviors, you can continue inculcating those behaviors in the AI. If you don't want the AI to behave that way, you can just say that this is your learning has ended after the data was collected from the person and pattern was made, and the person does not learn after that. It's a choice.
Okay. Let me just try and break it down. So you're saying that uh, now XYZ, suppose there is a person who might not live beyond maybe 2 years from now, right? So you are taking I mean, as an input, you're taking his consciousness, what he is doing, how he's reacting to particular situation, the way he moves, the way he acts, the way he speaks, right? You're taking in all the data, creating a AI virtual avatar of that particular person, right? And then
Yes.
you're feeding in, there is some sort of artificial intelligence also that is going into it, because
Yes.
that is how it will learn and evolve, right?
Yes.
Now
Yes.
once that person has passed, I mean, once he is no more, so his
Mhm.
family members can still go to a particular maybe metaverse or particular portal where they can access the virtual avatar of that particular person.
Yeah, that's step one.
Okay.
Where think of it this way: like earlier, you had paintings to relive somebody's memory,
Uh-huh.
then you had photographs, then you have videos. Now
Right.
you have the person's 3D consciousness
Okay.
to relive with them. Right? That's step one. Step two is tomorrow, when there is a metaverse and when there are, let's say, possibly billions of
Hmm.
people on the metaverse all across the world on different metaverses, you can have these people jump from this closed boundary of just meeting their family members to even interacting with other people. Now you will be in the company of people. Some of them will be real, some of them will be AI of people who have left us. That is a possibility, but that's something that just is a possibility. We've not thought of what will happen in the future. Currently, we're only focused on recreating somebody's consciousness. This has never been done before in the world, or especially in India. So we will be probably one of the first ones to do this and hopefully successful at it.
Okay, actually my question was that has it been ever tried in India or somewhere else?
It's not been tried. It's a very
Okay.
new concept. AI is not developed as much. It's
Mm-hmm.
gotten better in the last 3 4 years. So we are almost at the tipping point of creating something like this. And since we've not created it yet, we will just say that we are hopeful at creating it.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, what would it cost for a person
So
to create?
costing is a very difficult thing to answer
Okay.
because we just have one candidate who we are starting with, right?
Okay.
So and that's a free thing from our end, because we want that family to be one of the first families in history to experience their loved one even after they leave them. So
We are available for you to experiment. We are ready to become the experimental
absolutely,
rat out here.
that's the intention. That's the intention. We want as many. If this experiment does well, we would want as many people to be our part of our experiment as possible.
The question is, will people want the ironic show even after we pass? I don't know. Let's see how it
There's
how it
only one way to
evolves.
know.
Right. Okay. Okay. So you were part of the Shark Tank, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
first season of Shark Tank, you
yeah,
and you managed to get three sharks on board.
yeah, yeah.
Aman Gupta, Piyush, and Anupam Mittal.
Anupam. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned during the just initially that you are already working with Boat and Lenskart to create the metaverse and
Experience
of
for
their
them. Yeah.
store experience for their customers. What about Anupam Mittal? Is he not trying to do something around Shadi.com wherein the two families, ladka or ladki, mile in metaverse and they try and have a chat?
I honestly thought that Anupam had the strongest use case here, because like people, it is still a kind of, I won't say awkward, but a tricky situation where where families meet for the first time,
Right.
and the boy and the girl meet. Why don't we do a metaverse version of that? It becomes a lot cooler, lot chilled than what it is in real life. But somehow we've not cracked the nut with shadi.com yet. Probably will sort of have some success in the next few months.
So
That we're
probably
still
Anupam
knocking on the doors.
So probably Anupam is thinking, चलो मेटावर्स में मिलवा देंगे, शादी भी करवा देंगे, हनीमून कैसे होगा
uh,
मेटावर्स पे?
Believe me, I'm not even going to answer that question. Yeah.
Why I asked you this particular question? So uh, there was this particular incident just in my family wherein we had, the boy and girl were meeting for the first time, and there was a lot of arrangement to be made. The girl's family was coming in, so hotel bookings and all that. The boy worked somewhere else. He had to fly down to his hometown. So there was a lot of coordination and arrangements to be done.
Yeah.
Had to be done. If it was on metaverse, and if it would have been a let's put it that way, affordable metaverse,
Yeah.
people might have chose to go that way. I mean, if
Absolutely. I think,
they evolved,
see, current as I said, one of the problems that metaverse currently faces is a very simple question: why should I use metaverse when I can
right?
use Google Meet? and and it only can be answered when more and more people start using devices like a VR device. Maybe now there are haptic gloves, haptic
Hmm.
vests and stuff. When that becomes a norm, when at least 2 to 3 senses get engaged, that is when metaverse starts becoming cooler and starts seeming useful. Otherwise, if, like, it's the same problem that internet faced in 1983 when it took birth, right? If there were no computers or mobile or other smart connected devices, internet would not flourish to whatever it has currently become. So you need device support for a software to flourish as well, right? Think of metaverse like a software. It requires the device support for it to become a good to have, to transform into a need to have. That's the challenge that we're currently facing at. But I'm sure that with Apple launching a new VR device, which with Facebook Oculus launching the new Quest device, I
Right.
think things will get cheaper, things will get more affordable, more powerful, and with 5G coming in, metaverse will only go from strength to strength.
Okay. So I have so we spoke about Apple and Meta, Facebook. So
Yeah.
Facebook have has already rebranded themselves as Meta.
Yeah.
They have already announced that from a, the biggest Web 2 player. Now they have announced their foray into the Web 3 space.
Yeah.
How do you see that move? I mean, see, if you look at these three players, the three biggies: Facebook, which is Meta now, obviously, Apple, uh, Google, sorry, the fourth, Amazon.
Yeah.
They have all the data of across the globally of everyone, every single person. They have the data in terms of demographic, their preferences, and everything, right? So, will they have that first mover advantage because they have all the resources as well?
See, the question is, the short answer is yes, they will, right?
Okay.
But what is a follow up to that answer is the metaverse, which is the next revolution of the internet, or internet 2.0, will be much bigger than internet 1.0, which also means there is room for a billion more players out there. And why is it important? It's important because in 1983, some of the bigger companies out there, like the IBMs of the world, lost the plot to newer companies like Google, Amazon, and PayPal, and the rest of them, right? And
Hmm.
these companies are smart enough to not be IBM of the metaverse era. So they're already in, right? And but the good news here is that internet 1.0 was big for let's say 2000, 2 million players, for example. But internet next version 2.0 will be like 10x or 100x of that. So that means that there is room for many, many, many more players, despite not being probably as big as Amazon or a Facebook. Because because things like, let's say, chat gpt, now Microsoft's bought a major chunk of that. But chat gpt, if it was not bought, would single-handedly be able to challenge all the biggies just on the basis of their technology power. Similarly, there will be companies which are maybe already there or are going to come, which will challenge the might of some of the bigger companies just on the basis of technology and innovation. So the room for more companies is a much, much wider thing with Internet 2.0.
So has Facebook just opened up that space? I mean, see, they have this put in a statement. See, we are the biggest of the biggest social media giants in the in today's world, and we have
See,
announced ourselves in the Web3 space.
if I had to put my money on a company to sort of succeed and flourish in this era, I'd put my money on this company called Epic, which is
Okay,
the creator of Fortnite, which is the most popular game on planet Earth. It has 10 million players playing this every year, and to give you reference of Facebook versus, let's say, the rest, or YouTube versus the rest. Uh, Now the average session time that people play Fortnite for is around 156 minutes per user per week. If you
wow,
compare that to the most popular social media, which is YouTube, they play it for 41 minutes YouTube, 35 minutes Instagram, 21 minutes Facebook. So
okay.
that if you compare 156 with these figures, it seems like a mountain of difference between the two. Sure, web two companies like a Facebook or Instagram can beat web 3 or other metaverse companies in terms of number of users, but the metaverse companies come back with the most amount of session time. So they will always beat the biggies of Instagram, of Facebook, of
Hmm.
YouTube, of TikTok when it comes to people spending the more number of session time on their platform. So I believe that the next set of companies that you should look for are companies like, let's say, Roblox, companies like Epic, or Fortnite, or rather Unreal, companies like Unity. These are companies that will probably challenge the might of a Microsoft or a Google or a Facebook.
And is there a rough number? How large would this economy be? I mean, in terms of will this in metaverse and Web3
Yeah,
market will be?
I can give you. So I'll not I'll shy away from quoting some of the stats by Goldman Sachs and the other companies, because these are very far fetched, I feel. But I will give you some numbers to tell you how big currently this is. Right. So gaming as an industry currently is worth bigger than music plus box office put together globally.
Okay,
Right, which is music plus box office put together is roughly somewhere around 170, 160 billion dollars globally, while gaming as a company, as a sorry institution, is around 390 billion.
390
Right.
billion.
Yeah,
Okay,
and video as a platform, overall OTT, all of this combined together, video is the only thing that beats gaming currently. It's around 650 billion currently. So video is number one, gaming is number two, box office is number three, music is number four currently in terms of consumption and industry size. Right. And among the top four, the one that grows at the highest pace is gaming.
okay.
So we would imagine that gaming will surpass, let's say, 650 billion, or even go beyond that 800 billion, according to the last survey, last research paper I read, in the next 10 years, or rather at the end of the decade, which is 2030. So the number I would go with is 800 billion, which is probably the most logical currently. But it will definitely surpass video in the next 7 8 years.
I think the metaverse gaming. I believe it would be safe to say that it will easily cross $1 trillion economy,
Yes,
$1 trillion market.
absolutely. That's what a lot of experts say, but I'm just being conservative, and
Okay.
I'd put a 800 billion number to that. But yeah, definitely a lot of papers you read everywhere will quote multi-trillion dollar industry in the next 10 years.
Coming back to Loka Krishna, you mentioned that you did something for boat. What exactly, if you're allowed to share that, what
Yeah,
exactly
absolutely.
is the experience
S-
center that you have built for boat?
So what we did is that it's a very interesting use case, because what we did is we created a virtual Connaught Place, pretty much like a digital twin of the
Mm-hmm.
real Connaught Place. We put a concert area right in the Central Park,
Okay.
uh, where a K-pop concert was to be held, and this K-pop concert was to be held, which was participated by obviously K-pop singers like Priyanka Mazumdar, but also influencers like Radhika Bangia, also movie stars like Rashmika Mandana. And
Okay.
all of them came here, performed here for a live audience who could come from wherever in the world, and join the metaverse and dance together with them, throw roses at them, give them likes, and also collect boat coins while they're doing it. And if they collected enough boat coins, they got a chance to go to the South Korean capital, Seoul, in real life. So one of the lucky winners also got to do that. But it was a 3-day festival, 3-day K-pop K-pop concert, where multiple K-pop singers came in, multiple influencers came in, one Bollywood actress came, which is Rashmika Mandana, and all of the people who joined in from different places could participate in the event and dance together with other people and Rashmika as well.
Okay.
And
So
Boat did an amazing campaign with this, because they advertised in the real CP in
mhm.
Delhi, Connaught Place in Delhi, where they put banners and advertising in the metro stations all across the CP walkway, saying that we will be conducting a virtual concert with Rashmika. Do turn up, and this is the QR code. And they sort of logged in to the Loka app and enjoyed the concert.
Okay. Now I can understand that with companies like new age companies like Boat or the tech companies like Lenskart.
Yeah.
Now, how a legacy or you know uh, traditional company like Tata or Amul,
Mm.
how are they getting into the metaverse space? Are they really looking forward to that space? That okay, now this is the future. We have to be there.
So it's interesting because uh, let's talk about Amul first, right? Um, so Amul's gotten very serious competitions with the likes of Country Delight, for example, which is a new age milk
Right.
brand, right? Dairy brand.
Mm-hmm.
And Amul wants to up the game, because they know that they have the highest user base across India, and they have been a legacy brand for several decades now. Now, what they do is that they want people to not only experience Amul, but also know the Amul story of how difficult it was to start the white revolution in this country from Anand, and go and the thing that we are helping them create is create a 1950s Anand. How does a rickety railway station look like in 1950? How does the white revolution man himself, Vergis Kurian, sort of got onto the railway station in Anand, and decided that he, along with Tribu and Das, who was responsible for the white revolution, will convince the villagers to create a cooperative, escape the chain of the nasty middleman Polson, and create the dairy revolution in this country. So we're creating a 1950s Anand with amazing sceneries, with Purane railway station, with old sort of Kirane Dukan, with old
Okay.
schools, with iconic Amul locations like Korean Garage, like Dairy Museum. We're also creating a Statue of Unity there, because it's also a great part of the Gujarat legacy at large, right? And we're creating cows. We're creating the whole Amul experience, how it would have been if you would have landed on that railway station in 1950s. So that's
Wow.
the story that they want to show to people, and that's only step one. Step two is, this is taking you back into the future. Step two is where they want you to come back, or rather go into the future from, sorry, one was taking you back into the past.
Fast.
Second is they want to take you into the future, where what Amul or the Amul experience looks like if it was 2050.
Oh wow.
And a sort of more like a sci-fi kind of setup. And the third thing that they want to do is take you to the Amul factories. How the milk that they collect from these farmers, how are they pasteurized? How many processes do they go through before they get packaged and they come to your doorstep? So the complete Amul experience, they want you to know. They don't want you to go and and as I said, there are three phases of storytelling. One
Mhm.
was the phase where you read a book and understood a story. The second was when you saw a movie or a documentary and got to know the story. And third is you go to a 3D world like a metaverse and don't watch it, don't read it, but experience the story as a character in that world. That is the thing that they want to do with their brand. And Tata is obviously a behemoth in the industry, and they don't want to tell their story. They don't want to create an experiential metaverse. They in fact want to create a problem solving metaverse, where they want to create parts of their units like a pump room that we're starting off with. They want to create different pumps and have a 3D kind of information system where they know what is the efficiency of this pump, what is this operator who's operating that pump, how efficiently is he operating it, how much electricity is it consuming, how much output is it giving, how much profit will it contribute to at the end of each day. So they're creating a whole virtual simulator of their setup. That is what Tata is doing. So legacy companies also think, but they think in a more effective manner, while new age companies want to they are the ones who are willing to experiment, try out new things to reach out to their audience in a more effective, faster way and more innovative way.
Have you been to Jallianwala Bagh?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought it. One of the thing, and without telling you what we're doing, just as an overview, we're
Okay.
creating the Jallianwala Bagh experience. How you would have
Wow.
felt if you would
That
have
was my
been there.
exact question.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
That was my
We're
exact
doing
question.
that. I'll not get into details because I'm
Sure,
not
sure.
allowed to say a lot.
Huh.
This is some. We're also doing this for one of the clients. Uh, so you will be present on that Sunday when General Dyer and the men walk in, and you will feel the pain of what it must have felt when the firing started and people started sort of dying and jumping into the
Running
well.
around.
You would feel their pain. Instead of reading stories or watching
Mhm.
movies, it's better to be there, because जब आप वहाँ हो गए ना, that is when it pinches you. That's like an arrow to the heart, and that is the kind of storytelling that we want to create with metaverse.
Because when you go to Jallianwala Bagh, obviously, in that current particular setup, they have the audio playing and
Yeah,
the posters on the wall, and there is this setup that they have created wherein you see that people are running around, and there are soldiers with their guns pointed. But that's a very, how do I put it? Uh, it's just, I mean, it's made out of clay, right? You
yeah,
don't get that feeling. Now in metaverse, I think that was my whole question, that it will be some other experience altogether.
absolutely,
Now if you have to
absolutely.
bring back our I mean, heroes, pre-independence heroes like Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and all that, I
Yeah,
think this is a this would be the best platform to do that on
absolutely,
metaverse,
absolutely. I mean, this is a kind of storytelling that no other means can currently match.
right?
This is a very unique kind of experience.
Okay. Loka, no, sorry. I referred you as Loka. I think you won't mind that. So, Chris,
I would definitely not mind that.
so Chris, let me ask you, how was your Shark Tank experience? You
Okay.
got the offer from three sharks, which is a feat in itself. How was the overall experience of getting into Shark Tank? The pitch that you made, the appreciation from all the other sharks, and one more question: you have met these sharks, I mean these people individually, right? So what is the different characteristics of these people?
Sure, sure. So let me just take you to I think the 5th of December 2021. This is my shoot day.
Okay.
5th or 6th, I'm forgetting one of the dates. Yeah. So uh, this is so what happens is like they tell you one day in advance that आप जो भी whatever dresses or whatever t-shirts and jeans that you have brought, why don't you give it to us, we'll get them pressed, and जब आप सुबह आओगे मेकअप रूम में तो वो आपका बिल्कुल ऐसे हैंगर में रेडी रहेगा, तो give it to us on one day before. And on the day of the shoot, I arrived at 6:30 a.m. in the morning at the set, which is the same set as Kapil Sharma. And now around 8 to 9 pitches happen on that one day. So
Okay.
pitches usually happen on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and rest of the week is when you prepare for what you need to pitch, right? So it was, I think, a Friday or a Saturday, I'm forgetting, and I came at 6:30. So they give you a slot number, that your startup number 3 or 4 who will go into the tank, right? So I was startup 4 initially. So the first guy came into the tank, he got rejected. The second guy went into the tank, he got rejected. The third guy went into the tank, he got rejected. And I was like, oh my God, this is not turning out to be a great day. Uh, and coincidentally, like, I think what happened is that my setup was a little complicated to set up there
Hmm.
at the tank. So they said, आपका थोड़ा time लगेगा, तो हम आपको 4 की जगह 8 पे डाल रहे हैं. So my new slot was 8 now. So the fourth guy went into the tank, he got rejected. The fifth guy rejected, sixth rejected, seventh rejected. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is not my day. This is not anybody's day, in fact. This is a wrong day to pitch. And then I was the eighth person who went there. Right. While I was walking into the tank, and then you go to the door, and then there is the 20-second break before the door opens. And that 20-second is nerve wracking, because,
Feels
like,
like
at
a
least
lifetime.
personally, I mean, I have problems when I don't have problems when I'm, like, at the activity, like I'm playing the game, I'm doing like a conference, or maybe addressing the team. But I have a problem before that happens. That whole journey जो होती है ना, वो होती है nerve wracking. And that is what was happening. And then the door opened, and then I walked in, and I was giving my pitch. And then, because pitch is the only part that you mug up in the entire thing, because pitch can has to be scripted, everything
Hmm.
else is
Hmm.
natural. But the pitch is something that you rehearse. So I forgot my pitch, and then I realized कि यार, यहाँ पे वो मेरी पिच सुनने नहीं आए हैं, वहां पे वो मेरे धंधे को सुनने आए हैं, एंड मुझे सुनने आए हैं. So I might as well just be myself, and I know my business best among the lot here, right? So let me just explain it in the way that I prefer, and I know, and I want, right? So I did it, and somehow it just went reasonably okay. And then I think it was Namita who asked me कि आपसे पहले 7 स्टार्टअप आए थे, और वो सब रिजेक्ट हो गए. आप 8वें स्टार्टअप हो, आपको क्या लगता है आप सेलेक्ट हो जाओगे? And and the day before, and even on the flight, I was reading about Bhagavad Gita and Krishna and stuff. And one thing that just randomly came into my mind, and I said that मुझसे so एक पुराने जमाने में ना एक जेल हुआ करती थी. उस जेल में भी 7 बच्चे पैदा हुए थे, और उनको मार दिया गया था, और 8वां कृष्ण ही था, और आज भी 8वां कृष्ण ही है जो आया है इस टैंक पे,
Wow.
तो वो डील लेके ही जाएगा. So it was, I don't know how I said it, but I'm glad I did, because it broke the ice with them, and it made me a little more comfortable. And that is how the pitch started. The pitch lasts for almost an hour.
Hmm.
They ask you all kinds of questions. Sometimes there is no right answer to one of those questions, and you just have to be yourself and answer the way you the best you can, right? So that is how the Shark Tank experience was. Now, post Shark Tank was also interesting, because um, like, I don't know if you remember from the pitch, Aman also said कि ये कुछ ना कुछ बना लेगा, और नहीं
हाँ.
बनाएगा तो मेरे साथ काम भी कर सकता है,
Right.
राइट?
ये कुछ ना कुछ
एंड
फोड़ लेगा.
हाँ, कुछ ना कुछ फोड़ लेगा, नहीं
फोड़
तो मेरे
लेगा.
साथ काम भी कर सकता है.
हाँ.
एंड दिस इज माय फर्स्ट मीटिंग विद a man himself, and I went to his office, and I'm just sitting right across, and the first question is, मुझे एक चीज बता, तुझे बनाना है ना? नहीं बनाना है तो अभी भी बता दे, तू मेरे साथ काम कर सकता है. मैं कहा, सर, मुझे नहीं काम करना, मेरे को यही बनाना है. दिस इज व्हाट आई एम हियर फॉर, राइट? आई मीन आई हैव बीन डूइंग दिस फॉर 2015. आई हैव ऑलवेज वांटेड टू be one of my idols in life, which is Dipinder Goyal, who was my first employer, who is the founder of Zomato.
Zomato.
And मैं I said I want to really do this, and he says, ठीक है, तो एक काम कर, मैं तेरे को ये चीज, अब मुझे एक चीज बता कि तेरे को पैसे चाहिए या तेरे को धंधा चाहिए, दोनों नहीं मिलेगा. तो आई सेड कि सर, टू बी फ्रैंक, मेरे को धंधा चाहिए, बिकॉज पैसे दोनों से आते हैं, एक में इक्विटी भी जाती है.
Hmm.
So I said, give me business. Don't be a part of the company. It's okay. So he
Okay.
said, oh, ठीक है, कोई नहीं, I will give you the business. Done, समझ मेरे end से. Then I also met Amit from Piyush's end, and Amit is Piyush's co-founder in Lenskart. And I mean, I sat down for a 1 hour meet, and बातें होती रही. He honestly felt like a college senior, and वो बात इतनी लंबी चलती गई कि the thing went from a Chayo's outlet in GK2 to his residence, to meeting his brother-in-law, his wife, having lunch there, and dragging it to, let's say, I think it was a 6-7 hour conversation that we had that day. And since then he is truly like a college senior to me. I can just call him every time and say कि सर यहाँ पे मेरी लगी हुई है, आप बताओ क्या करूं. And
Wow.
that's how Amit has been. And Amit has and he keeps video calling me from different places, and he's a Man City supporter, I'm a United supporter, so he keeps sending me videos of when United gets its ass kicked, and all of that starts happening whether it happens on a constant basis. Anupam, the third one, Anupam, I actually knew from, and this is also an interesting story from my previous business. What happened there was I was actually in the tank, and he asked me, what did you do before this? And I said, I used to run a food tech company called Foodie Baba. And he says, ये वही कंपनी है जिसमें विवेक ने पैसा डाला है. मैं कहा हाँ, ये वही कंपनी है. He says, आपने एक बारी स्वीट भेजे थे ना मेरे को. मैंने कहा पता नहीं, मे बी विवेक मस्ट हैव सेंट इट टू सम ऑफ हिज फ्रेंड्स, या वी वुड हैव डिलीवर्ड इट. सो कहते हैं, आपने जब भेजा था ना, वो पानी वो बिल्कुल गीला आया था डब्बा, एंड आई रिमेम्बर वो अच्छी कंडीशन में नहीं था. आप ऐसे चलाते हो क्या धंधा? एंड आई वाज लाइक, ओ माय गॉड, ही रिमेम्बर समथिंग फ्रॉम like 8 years ago. And I had no other option but to say कि हाँ सर, गलती हो गई मेरे से, but that's also a learning curve. We were past में we were fools, but now we are lesser of a fool. But we are learning and getting better every day, and that's what he also appreciated. Probably it didn't show in the episode, but pretty interesting stuff happened while in the tank. So yeah, I
Wow.
met Anupam after that as well. Anupam's always classy and professional. He doesn't let his guard down for good reasons, probably because he seems like somebody who I would call to take life advice on. Probably not as a friend, but somebody who's more learned than me.
As a mentor, probably.
As a mentor, probably. Yeah.
So Anupam, whatever I mean, I could see from the Shark Tank, he seems to be very poised and has a dearth of knowledge
Yeah.
around on because he has invested in so many companies. So if you speak about मैं ये करने वाला हूँ, he will say कि अच्छा मैंने इसमें ऐसे पैसे डाल रखे हैं, तो I know the business in and out. And
Yeah.
he seems to be someone जो किसी पैसे डालने में नहीं, he actually knows about the business. I mean, he will go into the depth of the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have Aman, who is just like the rock star of the startup community now. Then you obviously met Ashnir, who is now a celebrity.
Yeah. Yeah,
Ashnir
absolutely.
is
I
now a
think
celebrity.
I remember this also one instance from Shark Tank. He says, कि and this is something that got edited in the show, and he says कि अगर मेरे को मेटावर्स में जाना है तो
Hmm.
मैं जीके में असली मतलब गाड़ियां चला के गेड़ी नहीं मारूंगा क्या?
It's
मेरे
there
को
in the
तेल
clip. It's
Yeah,
there in the
it's
clip.
there. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
there in the clip, but my response is not in the clip.
Okay. Okay.
So I said, and he says this, and I said, sir, हम मेरे ना एक चाचा जी हैं यूएस में, उनको जकी चाचा कहते हैं. तो अगर वो भी कुछ सोच समझ के मेटावर्स में छलांग मार रहे हैं, तो आई एम श्योर it must have some merit, and I'm sure that nobody in the room has the ability to say that Zuckerberg doesn't have enough wisdom to change his name to Meta. And for
Right.
that, nobody had a response, because obviously Zuckerberg is Zuckerberg. And that was it. I really wish that was something that was included in the show, though I would concede that probably Ashnir is one of the most logical person out there. And if I had to ever want somebody to give me, if I had to choose somebody I would take advice on business, it would be first is somebody I'd go to Ashnir, probably then everybody else.
I think obviously I'm the man who just changed the entire payment industry in India. I
Yeah,
mean, it was Bharat Pay who just shook the payment industry in India. And now look
absolutely.
at where we are. I mean, the infrastructure in terms of the payment industries that we have in India, there is no other country, there is no other city who comes even close to us.
Absolutely. I think people will nobody will disagree on his caliber, because he is the
Hmm.
man himself, right? But people might have problems in the way he conducts his some of his
Hmm.
personal
Hmm.
behaviors, and how he has opinions on people without sort of researching much. But nobody questions his caliber. He is creme de la creme.
Exactly. Okay. Krish, moving on from metaverse to now the gaming industry, right? You
Yeah.
mentioned a lot of games like I'm just forgetting the names of
Fortnite,
Roblox,
Roblox,
Roblox, and all that.
Minecraft.
So, India, how do you see this gaming? I mean, there are so many gamers, right? So many YouTubers who are gamers who are just rising up. So, how
Yeah.
do you see the future of gaming industry in India, and how
I think
big do you foresee it?
if you really ask my gut right now, I'd say India will rule the industry in the next 5 years, and not even
Okay.
10. And I say five because, uh, see, we have to understand how gaming evolved in the West versus how it's evolving in India. How it evolved in the West is it went from arcade, those big arcade
Yeah.
machines, to console, to PC, to mobile, or let's say to VR mobile, whatever.
Hmm.
Right? In India, we never saw. A lot of people didn't even see the computer revolution. They didn't even have the arcade machine. The first time they experienced game in its true sense was mobile. Most Indians experience gaming as a product on their mobile devices for the first time. And hence, since 2020, India has had the highest mobile game downloads in 2020, in 2021, in 2022, and hopefully in 2023 as well. India ranks in the top 5 in terms of esports gamers, and it's one of the few countries that has recognized esports as a legal activity, where people can watch other people play sport and earn money through it. Play esports and play money and earn money through it. So what I think is that I personally believe that India will be the gaming destination of at least this continent, if not the world. And in terms of mobile gaming, India is, by the way, the most popular destination in the world, followed by
Hmm.
Indonesia and Vietnam. But it will and based on the power of mobile, and based on India's per capita increasing, and I probably think it'll be in the next 5 years, it'll go to maybe 3,000, $3,200. And when we get there, you will see more powerful phones being bought, and hence more complex games being built for those mobiles, and hence more money being generated through it. So India is on the cusp of the gaming revolution.
I recently was listening to Rajiv Chandrasekhar, who is
Mhm.
a cabinet minister. So he was
Yeah.
saying that as government, we are keeping an eye on everything. We
Yeah.
know how big this gaming industry is going to be, and trust me that the government is all up for it. Obviously,
Yeah.
not at the cost of national security or any personal data security. So that's why they banned TikTok, they banned PUBG, and so many Chinese apps, right?
Yeah.
So with this gaming, so many, and what the best part of that, he mentioned that I want to see these gaming companies build games like we had Amar Chitrakatha or the Mahabharata or the Ramayana. Why don't you build games around that, our mythology?
Oh,
There are
absolutely,
so many
absolutely. I think
stories,
this is something that's core of what we do. See, we think that. I mean, I think the biggest sacrifice that, or a biggest contribution to the nation is given by, let's say, soldiers and farmers and stuff.
right?
But we, as normal citizens and as businessmen, as gaming companies, are also contributing to the country's growth overall and country's image overall. So I think the core of what we do here at Loka is bring the whole sense of Indianization in games. And that
Okay.
is why we've built CP. That is why we're building Indian FPS based out of Indian locations like Connaught Place, like railway station, like Marine Drive, and stuff, and so on. That's why we recreate Jallianwala Bagh. That's why we're doing the Amul story. a lot of what we do is based on the core ethos that we want to bring the Indianization or localization of India, and not just India, but different parts of India
Hmm.
into a game-like experience. Because India, as you know, is not just a country, but it's also a union of countries. Because every
Exactly.
state has a different culture, has a different dialect, has a different past, right? So we want to celebrate the diversity that India is and bring that into the metaverse as the forerunner of the world, probably.
If someone can bring in the stories from Amar Chitra Katha, the comics that we used to read earlier in our childhood, DC, Raj Comics, Nagraj, Super Commando, Dhruv, Doga, all these, if stories, these stories, if can be made into metaverse, I don't think, I mean, people like us will love it. I mean, at least
See,
our generation will love it.
one of the things that India currently, the good part about the gaming revolution is we have the users. So there's the demand is sorted, right?
Yeah.
But the where the problem lies is in the supply.
Hmm.
So according to the last research by Kalari, which is a popular VC firm in India, uh, it says we have roughly 18 to 19,000 game developers, which is really not a lot of number, right? So 19,000 game developers will not give you tons of games based on Indianization. They'll give you only some
Hmm.
experimental indie games here and there. We need to also build gaming not as a market but also as a technology generator, right? We also need to manufacture, or rather develop, be the development capital of the world as well. That is when the circle gets completed, where you have the supply but you also have where you have the demand but you also have the supply. Currently there is the demand but supply is lacking. We need to work on getting developers interested, making it worthwhile for somebody to take Unity or Unreal development as a full-time career and get paid as much as, let's say, somebody who works at a TCS or a Wipro or a Accenture. And that is when people will make that shift to these companies. And I think that's going to happen in the next 3 4 years, and we'll see the number jump from, let's say, 19,000 to
Hmm.
probably a 50,000 or a lakh in the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay. So, now anyone who talks about, I mean, I'm just talking about laymen like us who are not deep into metaverse or the blockchain industry. For us, cryptocurrencies are the starting point of our discussion when it comes to blockchain,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not asking you to get very deep into cryptocurrencies. I just wanted to know your views about what do you feel is the future of cryptocurrencies in India, and do you feel it's gonna pump up very soon?
See, I mean, I honestly, I'll give you my view based on both globally and India. Right, India currently is the strongest digital economy in the world. When I say strongest, I mean it uses the most. It has the most digital transactions in the world. It
Yeah.
has the most innovative products like a UPI in the world. Uh, and do you think in a market like India, which is growing at a rapid pace, riding on the wave of economic revolution, do you think crypto will disrupt it? I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Because Indian banks are strong. They don't crash. They don't go bankrupt that easily. Governments back these banks, back technologies, back these financial players out there to survive and to flourish. So I don't think crypto is going to cause a dent in the Indian economy. However, do you think it will blow up in the future? It has to. It has to. To give you sort of a small example here, right? So there is a whole category of Web3 gaming called GameFi, right? And what it does is it builds games pretty similar to, let's say, a MPL or a Winzo, where you have different games to play, and when you play those games, let's say I put in what Winzo or a MPL does is you put in 10 rupees, I put in 10 rupees.
Hmm.
We play a game of, let's say, a Fruit Ninja, and I score more points, I get 20 rupees, right? Because I won. Now put that into a crypto sense. Now I have 10 cryptos, you have 10 cryptos. Whoever won got the 20 cryptos. Now the advantage with crypto is that uh, here with MPL or with whatever Winzo and the other platforms, you will have to pay using the Indian rupee, which also means tomorrow you can't pay using a Canadian dollar and play Winzo, right?
Right.
And even if you could, you will earn the money in Indian rupees, which you will have to convert to Canadian dollar to use at your end,
Okay.
right? So both of this will cause friction and will cause, like, government will constantly want to not encourage this, because a lot of money will be coming from abroad, a lot of money will be going from India to government. Always wants money to come from one way, abroad to India, but it never wants money to go from India to abroad,
Hmm.
because that destroys the economy, right? So in crypto, however, that is not a challenge. Like, I bought a crypto, I played this game, I earned a crypto, I got crypto back. I will pay in crypto, I will earn in crypto, I will invest in crypto. Everything is in crypto. So there is no control of any government in this, and there is hence no regulation. Hence, it gives you freedom as a person, but it also takes away the the safeguard or the security that the government gives you as a top layer. So I personally think globally it has to boom, because it's the best form of transaction, or will be the best form of transaction
Hmm.
globally. Like, I can transfer money, I can pay wherever I want, I can do whatever I want. And crypto will be the end at some point of giants like Mastercard and Visa. But will it bring that revolution as fast in India? Definitely not. That's my personal view. I mean, people can differ.
Sure. Okay. So, while we are coming to the end of the podcast, I wanted to know what is the future of Loka in terms of what you guys are gearing up to and what we can expect maybe in the next 1 year, 2 year, 5 years timeline.
So I think I mentioned earlier that we are creating a universe of purposes,
Right.
right? And each purpose can be treated like an island, for example, right? And we are creating thousands of islands here. And we what we are doing, and when I say purpose, I don't mean we're creating 1,000 gaming islands. One island could be, or rather a few island could be gaming. A few island could also be exhibition centers where things like Jallianwala Bagh and other important events are rehosted or reinvented. And then there could be other islands like the one that I mentioned, Project Samsara, earlier, which is bringing people who are dead or who will leave us in the future, bringing their consciousness into the metaverse and making them immortal and be
Hmm.
and stay with us forever. And then there will be projects like the Amulverse, like the Tata thing that we're doing, like the boat floatverse that we created. So all of this will reside together in a big giant universe. And in the next 5 6 years, you will see at least the island having defined purposes to why you're going, at least 20 to 30 purposes. I'm here to date, I'm here to play games, I'm here to relive some of the historic moments, I'm here to go out on a party, I'm here to, let's say, um, uh, uh, maybe relive one of the childhood moments with my grandfather who's left me. So this could be billions of purposes, but you will at least see 20 to 30 purposes being built in the next 5 years, 3 to 4 5 years, probably.
Wow. I think when we started the podcast, I mentioned that there is a 20% skeptic in me. And as we progressed, that percentage has really come down. I think I'm completely a believer in metaverse and the purpose of Loka. I mean, I just hats off to you guys what you are doing in metaverse. I I would say that this podcast there is a lot to absorb for me as well. I will have to come back and watch it maybe time and again 2 3 times to absorb the information that you gave us today, and for the listeners as well. This will be a really eye opener for them in terms of to understand metaverse. What exactly, I mean, today's layman, for them उनको लगता है कि अरे यार ये क्या है, मतलब everyone is वो metaverse पे जाके जमीन खरीद ले, they are buying land and all that. So everyone,
Oh, that's
even my
gimmicking.
family has question. It's कि यार मैं वहां
That's
पे जाके
gimmicking.
land क्यों खरीदी. Right. So I think there is a lot to learn from this podcast. There is a lot to absorb from this podcast. And I thank you, Chris, for spending your time with us and giving us so much insights into the technology which is going to change our lives in the next few years, and we have to be ready for it. And just one last question, maybe.
Sure.
Do you think, I mean, there are so many leading celebrities, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kamal Khan did it recently, they are doing their concerts on Metaverse.
Yeah.
So as creators or as entertainers or the movie industries, how do you see that transition getting into Metaverse? Do you think there will be some sort of transition required for people like us who are doing it on currently on YouTube or Instagram, or how do you see the future to be?
So I think the best example that Metaverse brought to us was the Travis Scott concert. This happened on Fortnite in 2020. Was by the famous rapper Travis Scott. It was an 8-minute show
Hmm.
watched by 34 million people concurrently live, and 300 million people afterwards on YouTube.
Okay.
This in 8 minutes it earned 20 million US dollars. It generated that amount of money for Fortnite and the artist. So what? And the reason, and similar concerts have happened with Marshmello, with Lady Gaga, with Beyonce, and so on, right? So one of the things that I strongly believe, and I keep saying this again and again, is currently the metaverse only engages, if you're using it through a laptop or a mobile phone, it engages only your sense of sound, because you're also not immersed in it, because the mobile is this far or the laptop is this
Hmm.
far. A VR device engages your two senses, which is your eyes and the ears. When we start having five senses being engaged, people will not want to watch something on a 2D screen or a 2D environment like a
Right.
YouTube. They would want to be inside the music audio. दे वुड नॉट वांट टू वॉच अ मूवी, दे विल वांट कि यार मैं भी ऐसा फील हो कि मैं भी मूवी में चल रहा हूँ, वो मेरे साथ वहां पे गोली मार रहा है, मैं आई विल नॉट अफेक्ट द स्टोरी लाइन, बट आई वांट टू बी part of the storyline. I don't want
I
to
think
watch the storyline.
Black Mirror did it to a certain extent
Yeah,
in one of the episodes where you
yeah.
could just click and choose what would be the next step.
Oh, that it was called. I'm forgetting the name. Yeah, it was called Bandersnatch.
Bandersnatch.
Bandersnatch,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Bandersnatch
Bandersnatch.
was where you could choose the outcome of each of the smaller events
Yeah.
in the storyline, right? But what I'm saying is that Metaverse will not let you choose, but actually be like, for example, if let's say Shah Rukh Khan is shooting somebody in Pathan on the top of a moving train, you
Hmm.
will be able to be on the train with him.
Okay.
Maybe not
Okay.
shoot with him, but just be there as an audience. Instead of watching it on the theater, I would rather be on the train with Shah Rukh Khan, see how he's shooting, what he feels
Hmm.
when he's doing that. That is the kind of experience probably which future has for us. And when that comes, you will realize either YouTube has already shifted to the metaverse, or the metaverse platform that's becoming popular is starting to eat YouTube.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Krish, for all your insights and everything. I had a wonderful time, and I hope
Oh, the pleasure's
you
all
too
mine.
had a wonderful time on the show.
The
And
pleasure's all mine. Thank you for inviting me.
there is so much to discuss yet on this topic of blockchain, NFTs, and metaverse. And I hope that we'll have you soon enough on the show
Oh,
and
absolutely,
talk
absolutely. I mean,
talk again.
it was honestly an enthralling episode for me as well. And I watched some of the episodes that you've shot previously, and believe me, I mean, I can already see this becoming a not just a big channel, but but you will have a time crunch in the future of these are the number of guests I can call in a day, because इतना ही time मैं shoot कर सकता हूँ.
I
So
am really looking forward to that day.
yeah,
I really hope that probably you and I can have a podcast on metaverse sometime in the
surely,
future.
surely, surely.
Thanks a lot, Krish, and
Thank you, Ronik, and
we'll
wish you the
catch up.
best.
Thank you. Thank you.